afternoon, I'd have called out the police and the SWAT machine.
Yeah,
Are you managing?
30 pictures. 30 pictures. There's a few more to go.
That's why I came here today.
Day one.
You don't want to do the video.
If you want to learn about fierce self-compassion, unplug your inner critic. That sounds very
Yeah,
good.
it's good though. It's good.
Yes, yes, very good, Muslim. So very lots of pictures on the sheet.
One more page.
We can't
we're
put
done.
phones in the box today. We need pictures.
Yeah.
Actually,
Shiur-
most of the pictures are for tomorrow. I must
Shiur will be
admit.
very happy. There you go. Done.
Most of the pictures, thank you very much. Most of the pictures are for tomorrow.
Say right on there, mostly for tomorrow.
Right. And somebody's got themselves a cup of Coke here.
That's miserable.
I love Coke, but I find Mamish makes me. Oh, I saw your father being wheeled. Was it in his house? It was in his house. Like it's oh wow.
No, that was just he's doing another one.
Oh, he's doing another soda besides.
Yeah, that was just a boy by Yomi soda.
So when is he doing the next soda?
I'm scared because he could be.
Yeah, I'll
you
call
might
the
have
police.
a vendetta against
Give
him.
the
That's
wrong
right.
address.
That could be the opportunity for you to.
Yes, that's right.
Give the wrong address.
Next door.
Yeah.
In my house. Actually, we had a couple of Kedushin drinks to come in our house. I mean, you're going to arrest me.
Oh, I need that.
What?
I need that.
Aye.
What's going on? What you're not allowed to do?
Kedushin.
£1 million.
What the hell is Corona?
What's
beer,
a
it's a
million
beer.
pounds? What's a million pounds?
Seed. Seed maize.
2 years in a row.
Yeah, they do one every year. Well, it's just gone mad. Everyone's just decided, you
That's
know
the
what?
new
I need
way.
some.
The CEOs on good
Can I say a word for Meshach Chochmah or is it a rush?
Go for it.
This is unbelievable word for Meshach Chochmah. So this week's Pasha as well. This week's Pasha has got all the Yom Tovim. In the middle of the Yom Tovim, I'll say it very quickly, it's got Leket Shekhan Per. The question is, why in the middle it's got Leket Shekhan Per? Rashi actually asks the question. Rashi says, if you bring Leket Shekhan Per, it's as if you built the Beis Hamikdash yourself and bought Leket Shekhan, and you pass this to the back and give people who don't have. Anyway, Resh Chochmah says like this, because quite a long way. Because of Medrash, Medrash says that eventually Akash is going to destroy all the goyim. But Klal Yisrael will always forgive them. And when it comes to Yom Adin, always Akash finds Klal Yisrael. In a sense, actually, a Medrash in a few places, we know at the end of Rosh Hashanah that Klal Yisrael came out with the verdict of tzaddikim every single year. Why? He says like this. He says, I think what Medrash says because it's chus of Leket Shekhan Per. So the Meshach Chochmah says a very interesting thing. He says it's more an agricultural society. When your Klal Yisrael special, winter or the summer. So in the summer, all the going working in the fields, harvesting, collecting, and the Yidden are doing the same. The difference between the Yidden and the Goy is not so noticeable. When is it really noticeable? It's in the winter. The winter, there's absolutely nothing to do. So what does the Goy do? Drinks and drinks and drinks for the 6 months. Nice. If you read about the winter, what do they do? They can't do anything. What do the Yidden do? The Gemara says that winter was made for people to be able to learn Torah. They've got quiet. So if you were to establish Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where would you put the end of the winter and the end of the summer? To the end of the winter, because that's when Klal Yisrael are unique. So the Medrash is asking, why in the world did Hashem put it in the end of the summer? The answer is because there's something that we do in the summer which they're going to do. And that's we give Leket Shekhan Per. And what's special about it? He says, Goyim sometimes also give tzedakah, but whenever they do, they expect to get some gratitude for it back. Covered, something. Leket, you drop the leket on the field. If your best friend is coming in an hour and the worst enemy is coming now, you're not allowed to put it aside. It's basically you give it away and you've got no rights to it whatsoever. You're just giving it away without getting anything back from it whatsoever. You can't choose who to give it to. The ability to give something away without getting anything back, he says that is unique to Klal Yisrael. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you can forgive away your things. I'll forgive away everything that you've done wrong. It's midah connected midah, that you are mad al midah yisecha, I can do the same. So that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu prefers to put at the end of the summer, even though we haven't learned till something, we've not been busy with mitzvahs for 6 months, because at the time we've done one mitzvah Leket Shekhan Per, rather than to do it at the end of the winter when we spent the whole month, he says, therefore, that's why the Torah puts Leket Shekhan Per. Where does it put it? After Shavuos, before Rosh Hashanah. If you look in the Torah in this week's parasha, to tell us that this is the reasoning why it's unbelievable in Chochmah. And these charity campaigns, this is parasha. And if you think about these charity campaigns, I know the drivers is insane and everything else. The reality is, I was watching it once, Every second, every minute, another 10 people
Yeah,
giving.
it's the opposite. Because you're only giving. You're not giving for most of.
I gave, and what's the word for it? What did I get for it? Barely what? For 1 second, my name gets on it.
No, you don't do the name. You do it because then you're
The person asking you.
The person asking you gets the money.
Most people,
You're not giving because of
most
soccer.
people are
It's a lot.
not giving it. How much is it for
90%. Otherwise, it won't work. Why would they get a
Come on,
£1
Tony, you
if
put
they-
on my page. How would I put on your
No,
page?
but that's because
Tony, you
of
get
the
some
mutual
piss hitters out of doing
No,
it.
if I put on Tony's page, Tony puts on my page.
It's
That's
not
That's
true.
how you do it.
It
That's
isn't.
how it works.
It
How
is.
did
The
it
whole
happen?
concept of it is.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
See, you would normally get £100 a year.
We'll agree to disagree.
Because in case you should turn over my doorstep, I have no reason to give them a donation.
Fine, because they found the convenience.
I'm going to hold
I
you
don't
to
know if you
account.
don't give it.
I don't agree, but we'll agree to disagree. Okay, we have to get going. We'll go private. Okay, we're up to Desvova Modalef 59 from the top.
I don't know what I'm going to do next.
Very briefly.
I've only taken a page and people come ask, I said, I've got a page already.
You want to give like Christ, or like the Shechachma says, they give without getting back. That's right. Unconditional. That's why Moshe, you're going to be giving to everybody's page because you want to give without expecting. That's the Galus of Klal Yisrael. Okay. Very briefly, yesterday we started learning about the Kohen Gadol does the Avodah. So the first thing he does is maktik the keteros, and then he does the candles. And we asked the question that this is contradicted from another Mishnah where it says it's done the other way around. And what happens is, this is a contradiction to Tomid, to Yoma. And what happens is, we'll tell him to leave the cook here, or you could have a diet here.
He'll bring it up.
I'll bring it back. Okay. So that's a contradiction. Abaya gave a very straightforward answer. Well, that there's 2 parts of the candle. You do 5, then the keteros, then 2. So therefore, whichever statement you say, keteros before candles, candles before keteros, are both true. Comes on the Gemara, and the Pokka's got a different answer. We're up to 59 from the top of Papa Omar. Lo ikasha ho abonon ha b'shol. It's machlekes abonon ha b'shol. Machlekes abonon ha b'shol. Do you need a cup? Get a cup. Have you got a cup? No, you got. No, it's not his cup.
Okay,
fine.
Yeah, get a cup. Get a cup. Yes, tell him no. Yeah, right.
We need some.
The Shalom says that every time you take something in order to enhance your avodas Hashem, that's also serving Hashem. So you're drinking the Coke. Shalom, you're drinking the Coke in order to be able to feel better.
He's not drinking
Diet Coke. In order that you're able to learn better. You don't realize how much schar you're getting Shemayim for drinking that Diet Coke. You're doing it the Shem Shemayim. You're not drinking it because you enjoy Diet Coke. You're drinking it. No, because it enhances your ability to concentrate on the learning. And that itself is a mitzvah. Okay. So Abba Shor says it's machlekes abonon Abba Shor. Says well, but my came to the master Siddach. What did he say? Amisha is like over here abonon. Pious, the later Mishnah which talks about the lottery, which says that first the candles, then the keteros, Kabbalah Shor, Amos Sefer. The end of that particular Mishnah, they brought in the Kohen Talmud, cold soap. What does the word cold soap mean? Anybody remember?
Took a bit, like a small amount.
Close. He shechted the majority of the simonim. He didn't do the whole thing. Somebody finished the shchita al yodo. It says clearly, first the keteros, then the candles. That means we've got actually 4 mishnayos that discuss the order of keteros and the candles. 1 in Talmud, which we'll ignore for the moment, because we discussed that yesterday, and 3 in Yoma. 1 which says in our Mishnah over here, it says keteros, then candles. Then when it comes to the pious, the lottery, it says candles, then keteros. And then finally, it says there, keteros, then candles. So that doesn't make Reisha v'Sefer Abanon Tzos HaBashol, Omalocha Papa, and indeed, Reisha v'Sefer Abanon Tzos HaBashol, the first and the last Mishnah is like the Chomim, and the middle is Abashol. It says, well, Bishlim Abaya explained that we're talking about 2 different candles. That means the 5 and the 2. Lo Yoma Papa didn't say like Papa, Reisha v'Sefer Abanon Tzos HaBashol, he didn't want to say one Mishnah is going to. He didn't want to say the first Mishnah like the Chavim, the next Mishnah like a Bashol, and the next Mishnah like the Rabbanon. That doesn't fit so well. Why didn't he explain like Abaya that we're talking about different sets of candles? That means like this: there was candles, then the keteros, then there was candles. And our Mishnah, which talks about the keteros, then the candles. What's candles is the Mishnah talking about? Which set of the
first.
second two, the last two? Very good. And then the next Mishnah, which says candles, then keteris. What are the first five? Does that make any sense? At first you talk about the two latter candles and the first candles. The Mishnah over here is just telling you halachas, but the order is told later. That means like this: there's two separate issues over here. Our Mishnah is just telling us that we want the Kohen Gadol to be in top shape for Yom Kippur. So therefore, what we do is we make sure that he's in practice. So the Mishnah says he does the keteros and the candles. The Mishnah is not telling us which order comes before which. So it mentions keteros, then candles. It's referred to the middle keteros, and then the candles are the end. Later, when the Mishnah says two other Mishnahs, and then it says candles, then keteros, and then it says keteros, then candles, then it's talking about the order, and then it all fits in according to the Chalim: candles, keteros, then candles. Mashenkin, our Mishnah was never really talking about the order, and therefore our Mishnah is just telling us what should be done in those 7 days. So the Maisa, if you work it out, there are 4 different Mishnahs about the order, 1 in Tamid and 3 in Yoma. The Gemara says 2 different mahalchim basically. One is that we're talking about 2 different kinds of candles, or we're talking about 2 different shittas, Abba Shol and Chacham. Okay.
I mean, why do we do 5 and then 2? Why do we do all 7 in one go?
That's a very good question. The Gemara discussed it much later. That there was a special halacha, you didn't do all 7 candles in one go. Now, I don't know if you've got pictures, but it doesn't have which numbers. Right. If you've got the pictures, which picture did you start
page
from?
numbers at the bottom.
Oh,
So
17.
the top one, yeah, I think.
The first picture you put on
17
today.
was the first page.
Right. You've got a picture of a kohen throwing it against the corner and blood splashing on both sides. Can you see that? Then the next picture is he goes to another corner and he throws it to both sides. That is called Shtaim Shein Arba. Very, very beautiful pictures. You can see in the nice gold. And the bottom doesn't have a base. Why does the bottom not have a base? Why does the bowl not have a base? Anybody know? You should put it down instead of conjure. We had yesterday somebody called Reb Shimon Ish HaMitzvah that he argues regarding the first picture he agrees with, which was you sprinkle it, you throw it, and it goes on 2 sides. But the second one, he uses his finger and he puts it on both corners. If you should be able to see it on the pictures, can you see the next picture? You can see it. Anybody who can't should say so. It's halal not to. So basically, he agrees with the first one, the first picture. It's very difficult to tell the difference between the first picture and the second picture because the first picture and the picture looks exactly the same. And if you look on the west-east, the points of the compass, the second picture is one corner, the first picture is a different corner. So regarding the first picture on one corner, he agrees it goes on both sides. But the second picture, he dabs it on. Now, if you go to the next picture, if you go to the very next picture, it shows you how a chatos is done. The next picture, you've got a kohen.
19.
The next picture, 19,
Page 19.
but a higher picture.
Top picture.
Top picture. So there you actually see how a chatos is done. We explained yesterday. There are 3 differences between the way you do the zvika of an oila and a chatos. What are the 3 differences?
The 4 corners.
And Ashik and oila, what do you do? 2, which is 4, means you right. Very good. That's 1. One difference is 4 or 2. 1 goes on top, 1 goes below. Very good.
1 outside, inside.
No, we're talking about normal chatos. Okay, the very small differences. 1 is done with a finger, and 1 is thrown.
Which is which?
Chatos is with the finger, you dab with your finger, and here it is thrown. It is thrown. So the Maisa, in our sugya, we've learned how many differences that he disagrees regarding the second set. How many differences did he say? Of the 3, how many did he incorporate?
2.
Only 2, because he uses the finger not throwing on 2 corners, but he doesn't really, no, actually not even 2, because he doesn't put it literally on the corner, he does it at the bottom. And he doesn't say to stand high, he does it low. So you see what he's done, very interesting, this was Shun Isha Mitzvah. He's created a kind of new, which is never found anywhere else. Now let's just summarize very quickly. The Shimon Isha Mitzvah agrees that every single korban oila is done as the picture said originally, every single korban oila. The only one he argues about is one particular korban. Which one does he argue about? Tomit, only about the Tomit. He only argues about the Tomit. That means every single oila and every single chatos, the chachamim and the Shimon Isha Mitzvah agree with each other. It's only regarding the oila satomit. Regarding the oila satomit, he half agrees with the chachamim that you first do shtaim shenarba. And then he disagrees regarding the second half, and that is the second half is what he does is he says you use your finger to dab on two corners. There's actually another picture book floating around. I found took it out for this It's just this one got. Yossi Dehari told me if you want, you can get out from him some more. Where's the other one? We got it to the back. Oh, very good. Okay. Says the Gemara inside, we're going to examine the Svav Mishulei Shamitzvah. Gufo. Bolo Leken Mizrachis Fenis, first you go to the northeast corner. Noisim Mizrachis Fenis, you put it there. Ma'arovis Devoimis, the southwest. Noisim Ma'arovis Devoimis. V'ton Li'alo. Mishulei Shamitzvah Mishana Betomid. By the common Tomid, he makes it different. And he says like this. Bolo Leken Mizrachis Fenis, go to the northeast. Noisim Mizrachis Fenis. That I agree with you. That means that is not arguing. They put it on the northeast. Ma'arovis Devoimis. Noisim Ma'arovo. Ve'achakach noisin devoimo. You dab a little on the west, and then you dab a little bit on the south, which was the picture before, where you can see first he does a little bit on the west, and then afterwards on the north. If you look carefully, the curtain is on the second strip because he's already dabbed a little bit. And what he does is he first does on the west, and then afterwards he does it on the south. He said in the name of one of the people from Rabbi Yana's Beis Medrash. The pasuk says like this. The pasuk says regarding the musaf of Rosh Chodesh. The sea is in Echad Lechatos. One sea is it. One higo. You should do as common Chatos LaHashem. Al Olas Atomid Yosef v'Nisko. Now the simple explanation is Al Olas Atomid Yosef v'Nisko. What does that mean? What's the simple explanation? A simple explanation is that this common Chatos is besides. For the Olas Atomid, Al Olas Atomid Yosef v'Nisko. This is besides for the Olas Atomid. So this pasuk is telling you, bring a korban chatos of Rosh Chodesh. Besides, Al means besides. Many times the Torah says Al. Besides for the Olas Atomid. But he dashes Al Olas Atomid Yosef v'Nisko. Oilehi, it's an Oila. V'rachmon ovid b'maisa chatos. The pasuk says you should make a chatos Al Olas Atomid, meaning the Olas Atomid should incorporate part of the avodah of a korban chatos. That's how he reads the pasuk. Again, let's read the pasuk again. We say izim echad lechatos, and then he puts the word like this: lechatos laHashem and Olas Atomid. Make your Olas Atomid with a chatos. Keisatz, what should you do? The first time you do one which is two like an oila. Okay. So he learns it from a special drasha that the Tomid and the Chatos are made together. They incorporate part of Oila, part of Chatos. The Gemara now is going to spend some time asking a series of questions as to if you want to do a bit of Chatos, there are other ways to incorporate Chatos. You can do it. That means he chose to do one Shtaim Shen Arba on one side, one which is two on one side, and then dab it on two different corners. There's other ways to do it, and now the question is, why didn't he choose a different way to do it? Says the Gemara like this. You should do all of the oila with two, which is four. You should do the whole process like a common oila and like a common chatos. That way, you've done it completely. Says the Gemara, we never see blood that you do a kapara and then you do it again. You never use blood twice as a kapara. You did it once correctly, shtaim shenaba. It doesn't make sense to start doing now arba shenaba. If you're saying we never find such a thing, well, we never find such a thing as blood should be half a chatos, half an oila. The pasuk compared to that means the Gemara says like this: let's do it to oila and the chatos. Everyone knows there's no such thing to do a korban oila and the chatos. We've never seen such a thing to do half oila, half chatos. Elamai, because the pasuk tells us to, we've got no choice. So also we have got no choice. Says the Gemara, no. Hosam pisuk matanis be'almahi. All we're doing is just splitting the blood into two parts. But to actually do the blood twice, that we've never seen and we never do. The Gemara, if we're doing half oila, half chatos, so then let's do properly like a chatos. We should do the first one which is two like an oila, and two which is two like a chatos, meaning to go to the actual corners, like you see in the picture on page 19, where he actually goes up like a ma'aser chatos. Why do you do shtaim shenab at the bottom, and then shtaim, and then two which is two at the bottom, like a chatos? That doesn't make any sense. You should do it on top like a chatos, which is a proper chatos. Says the Gemara, why do we do that? We never see such a thing that the blood should be done half up, half down. There's no such thing that you do blood half up, half down. No such thing. Either you do it all up or you do it all down. No such thing that you should do blood half up, half down. Is there no such thing? One of the very special avodas in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur was that he would go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim and sprinkle blood by the kaporas. That's the next picture. And one of the famous things, we all know it, achas lemalo sheva lamata, 1 up, 7 down. Now, the Gemara asked the question, why don't we do this korban oila, which we said is a common tamid, do 1 which is 2 on the corner, and 2 which is 2 another corner up on top? What's the Gemara answer? Why don't we do that? We don't do half up, half down. Well, what does it mean achas lemalo sheva lamata? In the Hadman of the Gemara, look at the picture on page 19, the second picture. He puts it all on the group. The 1 up and 7 down. That means 1 on above, halfway above the kaporas, and 7 below the kaporas. So you see that sometimes you do 1 up, 7 down. How can you say that you can't do part of the korban up, part of the korban blood down? We see that many times we do it on the kaporas, Beis Hamikdash. The Gemara, but now here's when answers the Gemara kematzlif. My kematzlif machvi Rabbi Yehuda kemen gadol. And Rashi contradicts himself in one place. He writes, which is how the Rambam passes. And this is the picture on page 20. That achas lemalo, look at the figures, not so well. Achas lemalo is you throw 1 blood this way with your hand motion up, and 7 you sprinkle with your hand motion down. That's the difference between achas lemalo and shev lemata. Rashi says that in Zvachim, and that is how we pass it. Rashi here says, Kemangador means only the 1 which is up, you sprinkle slightly further, and the 7 which is down, you sprinkle closer. That means there's no difference in your hand motion, except for the achas lemalo is done with a slightly more oomph, with slightly more strength. Again, the more than I haven't understood achas lemalo v'shev lemata means what? 1 above the kaporas, 7 below the kaporas is about that you do up and down. It says it more, no. All of it was done on the floor. If you look at the picture carefully, the picture 20, it's all on the floor. None of it was actually done anywhere near the kaporas at all. The difference between achas lemalo and shev lemata was simply what? How you did your hand. Rashi in Zvachim says achas lemalo means when you do your hand motion upwards, and shev lemata you do your hands downwards. That's the Rambam pastas. Here Rashi says achas lemalo means you do it always with your hand upwards, but what you do is you do it slightly further. Says the Gemara, he showed like the way you whip somebody. When they used to whip somebody in Malchus, they didn't used to whip him on the same part of the body. What they used to do is the lashes would go lower and lower and lower down the body. Similarly, by the blood, they didn't do it on the same place. It just went lower and lower down by the kaporas. One of the other avodas that did a very special avodah, only on Yom Kippur, was to sprinkle blood 7 times on the Mizbeach. Now, we're going to see that the real truth was he did it on top of the Mizbeach. But the one that haven't understood, he did it on the side of the Mizbeach. I mean, halfway, on the halfway line of the Mizbeach. In this picture, if you look carefully, they have purposely done it, that the halfway, he's trying to sprinkle on the halfway. Is he getting it exactly halfway?
No.
Well, some above, some below, I think they're trying to show. Why? Why are they trying to show that? The Gemara understands that if you sprinkle 7 times on the side of the Mizbeach, the chances that you'll get them all exactly the same place is impossible. So some will be up and some will be down. So what was the Gemara's kasha before regarding the korban tamid? What should you do? Achas shish time lemato and shtaim shish time lemalo. And what did the Gemara answer? Why do we do that? Because you can't do blood up and down. If we do by Mizbeach Hazov on Yom Kippur, we do 7 sprinkling on the middle of the Mizbeach. And it's impossible to get always in the middle. You're going to by force do some up, some down. Answers the Gemara, no, that you do it all on top of the Mizbeach. None of them go on the side of the Mizbeach. It's all on top of the Mizbeach. None of them go to the side of the Mizbeach. Now, the Machlokes, what's the Gemara's having the maskana, is the Torah uses the word that you should do the Zvika V'tiavoy. You should do it. V'tiavoy. You should do it on the tower of the Mizbeach. The word's got 2 translations. The words V'tiavoy. I want to say a very beautiful taste, which says very nice point. According to Rashi, if you did 7 times towards the middle, what's the raya that some went up, some went down? What's the raya? The raya is because it's impossible to get them all in the middle. But you haven't actually got a proof that you actually sometimes the chatchila do a zvika above and a zvika below. It just happens to be like that. Teresa says even a better, not better, I should say. Teresa is a different shot. Teresa says we all know that you have to sprinkle on top of the mizbeach because you put on the corners, and also on the tiara, which later the Lord's going to see on the actual platform mizbeach on the side. So let's see the bottom Teresa's. My lava pagad mizbeach v'imkeim otzinu domim shechetzin lamata v'chetzin lamala. The mitchil nosan al akronis v'akachal chatzim mizbeach. The Rashi no pirushkin. According to Teresa's, it's much more fundamental because you first put on the 4 corners and then you do the 7 sprinkles. In the habit of the Gemara does the 7 sprinkles on the side. So by force, you're doing some up, some down. It's why you can do some up, some down. But according to Rashi, that you're supposed to get it all in the middle, the fact that some are up and some are down, it happens to be because it's impossible to get it exactly. Okay, let's see the Gemara inside. So the Gemara said, "V'loi, do not do some up and some down." What's that? You should put on the taharish mizbeach 7 times. My lava pagid mizbeach. The word taharish mizbeach means halfway up. Why? If you want to say the purity of the day, what would you call the purity of the day? Midday. In midday, the sun shines at its brightest, and so to speak, the light is at its clearest. So if you were to talk about the clearest of the Mizbeach, Pashtus, you're talking about halfway up the Mizbeach. Just like you say, the day is clear, and we mean halfway up. Omar Rabba Bar Shelo Loy. That does not what it means. Top of Tesavam with Beis. Agufei de Mizbeach. You put it on the Mizbeach. Now, if you look at the picture very carefully, he's putting the blood on top of the Mizbeach. That's how we pass. When you read carefully the Piyut and Yom Kippur, you'll read that he puts it on top of the Mizbeach. First, he puts on the 4 corners. If you look a tiny bit on this picture, there's a tiny red strip because he would first put on the 4 corners. Can you see it? If anybody can see it, maybe on your smartphones can see it as well. Tiny bit of cool blood. And then he would put on the actual roof on the Mizbeach. Now, before he put on the roof on the Mizbeach, he did something else. What did he do to the roof on the Mizbeach? He would clean it away in order to be able to put the blood directly on the Mizbeach. So the word translates the word Tarish of Mizbeach doesn't mean the middle of the Mizbeach from the word purity of the day, which is halfway, but rather purity of the Mizbeach, which is what? The cleaning away. That when Hashem gave us the Torah, we saw the clarity of the day, the cleanliness of the day, like it was pure day. So therefore, Tarish HaMizbeach, what does the word Tarish HaMizbeach mean? On the cleanliness of the Mizbeach, on the clear part of the Mizbeach. And from there, we learn that you do the Zikr Mizbeach. So now, let's go very briefly what we've learned so far. There's a common Talmud. The common Talmud we do is at the common Oila. Since it's a common Oila, we do Shtaim Shein Arba. What's Shtaim Shein Arba? You throw it on 2 corners and you get it to 4 sides. That is the din by a Korban, normal Korban Oila. By a Korban Talmud, came along with Shemini Shamitzvah and tells us that what? That we should do 2 by 1, which is 2, and then 2, which is 2. The Gemara asked the Kasha. The first question Gemara asked is, let's do 2, which is 4, and then 4, which is 4. What's the Gemara answer? We don't do blood the whole process twice. You never do kapara twice. Faith the Gemara. Let's do 1 which is 2, and then 2 which is 2 on top of the Mizbeach. What's the Gemara answer?
That's mixing oilers and
More than that. Let's do 1 which is 2 on the bottom, and then 2 which is 2 on top. What's the Gemara answer? You don't do up and down. Depending on 2 places we thought we do up and down by the kaparos and Mizbeach Hasav. The more established is by the kaparos, you don't do up and down at all, you just do it on the floor in front of the kaparos. And Mizbeach Hasav, you also don't do up and down, you just do it all on the rooftop, 4 on the corners and 7 on the actual roof, on the actual top of the Mizbeach. Says the Gemara, my shno, do you have oila bereisha or do you have techatos? Why does the mitzvah say do 2 which is 4, 1 which is 2, and then 2 which is 2? Neisa bereisha techatos. What do they say of the oila? Do the other way around. 2 which is 2, and then 1 which is 2. Answers well. Kimin the oila he comes a bereisha. At the end of the day, the common topic is an oila. Since it's an oila, you do 1 which is 2, and then 2 which is 2. This is the 3rd different question we asked him for another solution to his problem how to do oila and chatos. The more pushes away first do oila and chatos. Frei the Gemara. This question, most Rishonim say, has nothing to do with Shmona Mitzvah. This question is a question on all the Chachamim. And that is, the question is, why do we do those two corners? Why did we do Mizrachis Sephonis and Ba'aravis Tvonis? You must remember, if you look at the next picture, you've got the ramp. The ramp is always considered the face of the Mizbeach, because you always go up the ramp. So you're standing in front of the Mizbeach, and you always go, when you turn around the Mizbeach, which way do you always go, right or left? Does anybody know?
Right.
Why right?
Always go right.
Very good. Whenever you turn, you always go turn to the right. So if you say in front of the Mizbeach, which corner would you meet first? What's the name of the corner you would meet first? Look at the picture. Which corner would you meet first? Mizrachton. Which corner would you meet first? Until you got it clear, it's a shame. If you're standing in front of the Mizbeach and you're walking around the Mizbeach, as Ben said, you always walk to your right. Which corner are you going to hit first? To Voimis Mizrachis. Your face, you're going to walk all the way around. You're always going to get Voimis Mizrachis. So if you always get Voimis Mizrachis, the first thing you're going to hit is Voimis Mizrachis. So the Gemara's question is, why did you go to the next corner and then do the parallel corner at exactly at an angle? You should go to this corner and then go again and do it to the other corner. You always have to do the two corners opposite each other as an angle, because you want to do 2 which is 4. If you do them next to each other, you won't get 2 which is 4. But why not start here and then do that one? Why go this? Why miss out the first corner, go to the second corner and do the fourth corner? You have to put the blood where there's a yesod at the bottom. Since it didn't have a yesod, you can't put it there. So you have to miss out. There's no yesod. If you look very carefully at the picture, they've actually shown you, if you look very carefully, over here, there's no yesod, there's no foundation. If you look there is a yesod. This yesod goes all the way around. Yeah, the next one. It went on 3 corners. If you've got another picture, they've got lots of pictures.
It says that in your side.
It's got no, it says a yesod, but if you look at, if they've got a picture, no, they haven't got a good picture of the Mizbeach yet. But you'll see it's got a no yesod, only got yesod in that corner, that corner, that corner. So you go first that corner. On the 18th page. Oh, very good. Here's the yesod. Very good. Here's the yesod. You see? You put the blood, it's got yesod, and it doesn't go all the way around. It stops. It stops to that corner, and it stops to that corner. Very good. Says the Gemara. Why? Okay, we've agreed which corners, but why that one first and the next one? And it's more like Ben said, you always go to your right, the Mizrach, and you always go first east. If you've got a choice of east and west, go east. The Reisha first, he meets that one first. Since that's the one you're going to meet, and if you look carefully in the next picture, you've got a kohen walking, and it's a blue strip showing you the maslul, the path, the route, planning route, right? You got the tom-tom, it says planning route. So you look at the blue, it's planning the route, and it's going, yes, I know nowadays tom-tom is outdated, I still haven't been updated to the ways. No, you need to phone. Says the Gemara. Wait, the Gemara, how do you know the Torah tells you that with the oila you should do a chatos, the dibba chatos to come back on over the oila? Maybe the Torah first every chatos you should do an oila. Says don't think like that. The chsiv al oila satamid yosef benisko. The Torah says put the chatos on the oila, not the oila on the chatos. So don't think that you should do on a chatos the avoid of an oila, but rather on the avoid of an oila you should do a chatos. And that concludes our sugi. Let's go very briefly what we've learned. Our Mishnah says that you do first the keteros, then the candles. The Gemara has a contradiction from Mishnah and Tomit. The Gemara originally answered, what was the original answer was that Mishnah's Tomit, if you remember yesterday, Mishnah's Tomit goes according to Shemona Mitzvah. The Gemara says it can't go according to Shemona Mitzvah Mishnah's Tomit because he argues regarding how you do the Korban Tomit. And because of that, we went into an argument how you do the Korban Tomit and the whole discussion. Now the Gemara goes a completely different tangent. And the Gemara discusses the map, you've got a picture of a house, what's it called, plan. There you go, the plan of a house, the plan of the Beis Hamikdash. where we have a machlokas in how the plan of the Beis Hamikdash is. The question is, what's the connection between the next sugya and our sugya? There's only one connection which the Mefarshim managed to find, and that is like this. Just like in the previous sugya, we answered that the question between the chatos, between the keteros and the candles, which is first, we answered this machlokas tanoim, and we said that's Ishmael Nisha Mitzvah, that's not Ishmael Nisha Mitzvah, then we said it's not Ishmael, back and forth. This next sugya, the answer is going to be, it's a machlokas tanoim, what the exact plans of the Beis Hamikdash is. And what we've done very nicely is the shown us pictures of all the different rooms. If you look carefully, I gave a picture right at the beginning. I hope you've all got it. I'm sure you're treasuring it and every day learning it off by heart. But basically, we're discussing this room. Where is it? This over here. This very small room over here at great length. The Lishkas Beis HaMoiked. What did he do in Lishkas Beis HaMoiked? Oh, no, that's what we're going to be learning. It says, well, it's not awesome. Omar Lema Muna, the one appointed, said to them, go and bring a sheep from the sheep pen. It's very interesting. Rashi points it out that every day they would check at least 6 sheep, and there would always be at least 6 sheep checked in order that there should be plenty for the Kol and Tomit. Try and find the answer from Rashi to make it slightly more in the guy. He says an interesting question. He says he doesn't have an answer. Is that Tosfos paskins that if the sheep has not been checked, even if the sheep has no mum, the sheep is possul even b'diavad. That means if you get a sheep, hasn't been checked for 4 days, but you know for a fact it's got no mum, then what will happen is it is possul. It's possul, right? Even if it's got no mum. Oh, and Tosfos also says, I thought we could ask the question, that it has to be checked inside the Beis Hamikdash. Can't check it outside the Beis Hamikdash. Effectively, Ashiv, that we know that the Kol and the Omer, we're allowed to eat, like Moses says, that as soon as Beis Hamikdash, Mashiach would come the day before the Omer, they would already bring the Kol and Omer that morning. How can we bring the Kol and Omer that morning? If Mashiach comes the day before the day of the Omer, we need to bring the first Kol you always bring is the Kol and Tomit. You're not going to be bringing Kol and Tomit because you've got those sheep checked. That means when Mashiach comes, the first day we will be able to bring the Kol and Tomit and Rashi use it as a kasha. You hear the problem? Clearly, the context is no. Yes, clearly, the context is no. But clearly, there are many sugyas that are mashma that yes, that they will be brought straight away. And he says, therefore, that those who argue on Tosfos. Okay. It says what? So it's not also Mamuna. By the way, there's an interesting machlekes Rashi on Tosfos. Who's the Mamuna? Rashi says a number of places Mamuna. Look at Rashi's 3 words. Rashi's quite hard to find it. What's scan? That's the scan. Then Rashi goes ask me, what does the scan Kohen Gadol actually do? What's his job? You're vice president. What's vice president do in America? I don't know what he does.
America.
Okay, what does
She is the
She basically takes control.
She is the president.
so Rashi says the scam was the one who told them to get the sheep to come and tell it. Tosfos brings the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that the scan had 5 jobs, and says Tosfos, the Yerushalmi tells us only these 5 jobs, and none of them was this one. Says Rashi, Tosfos, that there were 2 different jobs. There was a mamuna and there was a scan, 2 different positions. But there are many mefarshim that back up Rashi. Rashi says Rashi Tosfos was the mamuna and the scan the same job or a different job? Okay. So again, mamuna zu review Lishkas Beis HaTloim. Lishkas Beis HaTloim is v'miktzas fanis ma'arovis. That was in the northwest. Anybody who wants it, got lots of pictures. You don't need to see the pictures. It's got a nice picture of Lishkas HaTloim where all the sheep, you can see nice clean sheep. And that was in the Sfinis Ma'arovis. And here you've got a picture where you've got the Lishkas Beis HaMoiked. Can you see the fire in the middle? And you can see over here little lines, dotted lines, because this was in the Kodesh. And this was in the Kodesh, this was in the Chol. And they had lines to remind you that you're going in the Azor. This is out of the Azor. And this is the 4 rooms. The next whole sugya is going to be, is it true that these were the 4 rooms, or was there a different opinion what these 4 rooms used for? So we're starting from one of them. One of them was the room which used to check the sheep. That was in the northwest. One was the one for checking the sheep. The next one was Lishkas HaChosomus. What did you use Lishkas HaChosomus for? What the Lishkas HaChosomus was for?
Treasury.
It was a place with seals, with stamps. And what happened was tokens is the word. Tokens. Lishkas HaChosomus is the room of tokens. And you'd have two different people. One person would be in charge of the token, one person in charge of the money. The one in charge of the token sat in that room. Next one is Ba'achas Lishkas Beis HaMoiked. Inside the main Beis HaMoiked, there was another room which was called Lishkas Beis HaMoiked. Tosfos says, a very long Tosfos, on top of Tosfos, what was the purpose? It says an interesting thing. In case the fire in Mizbeach went out, you would take the Lishkas Beis HaMoiked. So what was the other room for? He says sometimes both fires would go out. And if you needed the third fire. But we've got another Gemara that on the Mizbeach, there was always another fire burning in case the main fire went out. So Tosfos, maybe all four fires went out. So if you had to have lots of fires, that's how Tosfos explains.
But one of the nisim that happened was a fire.
Yes, but you always have to do your efforts. Yeah. Rashi though doesn't agree. Rashi says that it was actually a place to warm themselves up. Okay, we'll come to that thing. And finally, there was a room which they would make the lechem aponim, and you've got nice pictures if you look carefully, page 24, where they had more. That's the contradiction. How can you say this? There were 4 rooms attractive. They were like small rooms that open up into a palace, meaning like this. It wasn't 4. When you got a plan, you can have 4 rooms which are disconnected from the main room, right? You've got a hallway and 4 rooms coming up. That wasn't how it was. It was a main room. Within the room, there were 4 cordoned off rooms. That's how it was. It wasn't 4 rooms off the main room. It was 4 cordoned off rooms. 2 in the Kodesh, 2 in the Chol. The Roshi Pispasin, and there was the heads of pegs. Now, Dinim in Kodesh the Chol. Umayu Meshamshus. Now, if you remember the first edition, you just say, I'll tell you what they were for. But in fact, we're going to find a contradiction. Now, obviously, the southwest here, that was for the sheep. Now, before we said which was for the sheep, Sfonis Marovis, which was northwest. And now we're saying it was southwest. That is the Kasha. But once we mention the Kasha, we mention the rest of the Mishnah. Let's carry on to Zayin Mudal, top of the page. That's where they made the Lechem Aponim. It's got a very, very nice picture of people preparing the Lechem Aponim, as picture on 24. When the Malchi Yovam came, they destroyed the Mizbeach, and here you've got a picture, because in the same room used for 2 purposes. One corner was cordoned off to put the Mizbeach, which was ruined, and one was used for the Chesamos, for the tokens. The Rabbi Yashka got huge arichos. If the Goyim was to actually knock down, let's say you were to find a piece of the Beis HaMikdash knocked down by the Arabs, does it have Kedusha or not? Does it have Kedusha or not? The Gemara from Rabbi Zohar says that the fact that they kept these, they didn't use these stones again, why didn't they use them? Is a right that a Goy has the ability to profane something and lose its Kedusha. And if that's the case, if you were to actually find part of the Beis destroyed by a Goy, it wouldn't have Kedusha. It's got big arichos that's... The Koisel, anyway, does have the Kedusha of the Azor, but let's say part of the Beis itself. That's the question. Okay. Then they would go down to Beis HaTfilah. You've got another picture, you can see a hole in the ground, which had a step ladder going down, and they would go into a chamber underneath the floor, and they would get there, and they had a little fire. Says the Gemara. Oh, we're going to stop here. It's been actually, it's like, we started to tell this earlier. I just want to say, we're basically at a question, and tomorrow we're going to go in great detail how the Beis HaMikdash exactly looked in order to answer, reconcile the contradiction, what those 4 rooms were for. The main contradiction we're tackling is the northwest, the Lishkas HaTloim. But once we go into that contradiction, we go into more detail how the Beis HaMikdash looked. Well, very, very short daf coming up, but it's a lot of questions. Okay, there you go. That's not everybody. So, I want to wish Avichas Yomim to Rabbi Ian, the friend. I wish to have Avichas Yomim and Shomash Tamaliyas, his father's yard side. Was it 16 years, he said? 14 years. Every